Now these were actually Ukrainian aircraft, but they were operated by the United States Air Force based out of Diego Garcia. Now according to reports that have been coming out, the Chinese Army notified both Indian and Nigerian intelligence officials about the presence of these US operated aircraft. I mean, the Chinese have been actually expressing a little bit of concern lately about certain biological agents that it appears that the United States Air Force is spreading throughout Earth's atmosphere, some of which Chinese officials are also warning is an attempt to conduct mass genocide via the spread of H1N1 swine flu virus. Now the first of these aircrafts to be ordered down apparently was over India. It was preparing to enter Pakistani airspace, and it sort of triggered a response, and the plane was forced to land at Mumbai. And the second one was forced down by Nigerian fighter pilots, who apparently also arrested both the crew and the plane itself. Now, according to intelligence agencies, the strange thing about these aircrafts, other than the armaments they were carrying, was their waste disposal systems. And the reports say that these waste disposal systems could hold in excess of 45,000 kilos, and a network of pipes that led to the trailing edges of the wings and horizontal stabilizers for dispersing the contents of waste tanks in a type of aerial type mist. Now, apparently there was a lot of kerfuffle. There were demands sent by the United States to both India and Nigeria for the release of their planes. It really seems that they've completely nailed a couple of chemtrail planes, folks, over Nigeria and India. So this just isn't a local thing happening in Australia and the United States. It's going on everywhere. These people are quite mad, folks. They really are, and they are literally attempting to carry out a mass genocide. There's something very, very sinister going on with all of this, if people would just stop and look a little bit below the surface of what they see. But people just don't seem to want to open their eyes and look at that which is right before them. Now, an interesting thing with this whole chemtrail issue, there's an American-based organization called the Sunshine Project that existed in 2002, and it accused the US military of conducting a chemical weapons research and development program in violation of international arms control law. And it stated, among other things, it stated that the US Department of Defense Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate was a secret program that was focused not on developing highly lethal agents such as VX or sarin, but rather it had an emphasis on non-lethal chemical weapons that incapacitate. Now, their science department defined non-lethal as weapons that resulted in death or permanent injury in only 1 in 100 victims. Their research director told US Military Magazine that they need something besides tear gas, like they need calmative and anesthetic agents that would put people to sleep or at least put them in a good mood. And these weapons are intended for use against potentially hostile civilians in anti-terrorism operations, counterinsurgency, and in other military operations. Now, the main focus of their operations is on the use of drugs as weapons, particularly drugs that are known as calmatives. Calmatives. Now, calmatives are mind-altering or sleep-inducing chemical weapons. Now, I find that to be quite significant, folks, because there are a lot of people around the world in all sorts of places just go onto YouTube and search for FEMA camps and find how many citizens of Europe and people from Australia and people from all around the world are speaking out against these FEMA camps. And what's going on in America, a lot of people are seeing what's going on in America. But the curious thing is that no other nation in the world is more docile and complacent about its own destruction than is America. A lot of European people look and see what is going on in America right now, and they remember it because they saw it happen in Germany. They saw it happen in Germany just before World War II. But Americans seem to fail to notice. And even worse, they fail to notice that their current president, Barack Obama, is actually continuing Bush's outlawed policies, including one of the most dangerous policies of all, and that is the policy of allowing the US government to hold any citizen of the United States without trial indefinitely, should that person ever have someone point a finger at them and say, terrorist. And that is not to say that all the American people are asleep. I mean, there are a lot of Americans speaking out, and thank God that there are. But there should be a lot more. There should be a lot of people who are completely indignant about what's going on. Should the charges of Jane Burgermeister be in any way proved to be correct? I mean, these charges include evidence that Baxter Laboratories deliberately sent out 72 kilos of live bird flu virus supplied to them by the WHO in the winter of 2009. They sent it out to 16 laboratories in 4 countries. And she claims that this offers clear proof that the pharmaceutical companies and international government agencies themselves are actively engaging in producing, developing, manufacturing and distributing biological agents classified as the most deadly bioweapons on Earth in order to trigger a pandemic and cause mass death. Should these charges prove to be true, well, folks, to the American people themselves, perhaps the worst is yet to befall them, because the CDC has ordered 600 million doses of swine flu vaccine to be forced upon the American people, who, under the present swine flu public health emergency, will have no choice but to take these vaccines or face up to 10 years in prison. Now, what makes these 600 million swine flu vaccines that have been ordered by the US government most curious of all is that, as it stands right now, it's impossible for any vaccine to be produced for the H1N1 swine flu virus, because it's still continuing to evolve. New reports coming from everywhere clearly show, I mean, even from the United States itself, the swine flu virus is still evolving. The American people, and either do the people from most countries, they simply have no idea that it takes over a year. It's over a year-long process to make any type of influenza vaccine, because once the virus stops mutating, then they can look at a vaccine. But until then, well, they simply can't make one. But people just seem to be content not to look at information like that. They seem to be content to continue to watch the destruction of their once great nation at the very hands of those who they believe are helping them. And to those like us who continue to shout the warnings at them and to tell the truth to them, it remains a fact that those that are telling them the truth are called liars, and those who are lying to them are believed, because the ones who are lying to them do it from a little square box in the corner called television. And people who've been trained to believe anything that the media on the television tells them to believe. And that is where a lot of the problem lies. in a lot of issues and a lot of different aspects of our society, is that people simply don't find things out for themselves. People simply believe what they are told by that little box. They are fed misinformation by talking heads reading from cue sheets. This seems to be what our world has become.